Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks. Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. How's everybody doing today? Hope you're having a great Monday, and I hope you have a great week. I want to introduce my co-host, Boxing Hall of Fame writer, and Michael Spink's biographer, Jack Hirsch. How are you today, Jack?
Hey, great like always, Keith. Raring to go.
We hope everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and the McGrath Podcast Network. I got to mention that we're on live, and check out all the groups that are always scrolling at the bottom. They're just a couple of our favorites of the dozens that let us share this show after we're done. So thank you. An exciting weekend at least in golf. I mean, we had some baseball, obviously, and the NBA playoffs are finalized, which we'll get into. But the golf was just crazy. I know you're not the biggest golf fan, Jack, but I know that even you were riveted to this up and down, back and forth, 4 different leaders yesterday. And Rory McIlroy becomes the 4th man ever to win back-to-back majors. What a great day in golf.
I watched all day yesterday, believe it or not. And I'm astonished because I'm not a golf fan. I mean, I know a little bit as being a sports fan, the players who are involved. But I was watching, the whole third day. It was riveting what was going on because you're going to have the Masters champion decided, and McIlroy, whether he can bounce back from the disastrous day 2, that was a big story because it would have been one of the great collapses in Masters history from day 1 to day 2 with him if he didn't regroup and win this tournament. But Keith, so much luck is involved in this as well. That one shot by McIlroy at the end that looked like it could have just cleared the water. Yep. And it could have spun backwards into the water. Instead, the ball went forward. If it spun backwards and went in the water, we're talking about Scotty Scheffler as the Masters champion today.
8 out of 10 times that ball's probably going to roll into the water in that spot. From my experience in watching this. And Rory, I have to tell you, he held a record lead after 2 rounds, and we thought, and CBS, I'm sure, was very happy that he didn't extend that to 11 on Saturday. But to me, and he didn't play great on the front 9 yesterday either. He fell 2 strokes behind, but he just took off on the back 9. And Justin Rose, heartbreak for Justin Rose. 2 years in a row, he lost in a playoff to Rory last year. And this year, he took the lead. He was rolling in this tournament, and then wheels just came off around Amen Corner, really. But Rory McIlroy, in my mind, won this tournament Saturday when he could have fallen 4 or 5 shots behind. He played horrible golf. He only finished 1 over, and he lost all of that lead. We know that. But he could have lost 4 or 5 more strokes to par. He scrambled around that course very well, and you got to give him credit for a bad round that he turned into not making it a disastrous round. So I think he won this tournament Saturday.
It's interesting, Keith. After day 1, when he was up 6 strokes, they interviewed him, and he was talking, well, it's not over, and anything could happen, this and that, and you think he's just talking like a coach would who's up 25 points entering the 4th, period in basketball. You basically have to game 1. But of course, anything could happen, but it's so highly unlikely. But you're saying, well, it's not over. We've got to close it out. They're not going to hand us anything. But who would have thought, his words had reality to it? That it actually transpired. It wasn't over, and his lead evaporated. And he basically had to start the 3rd day on even footing. He had to go out there and earn it. He actually had to go out there and win it, not protect the lead, but actually go out there and win it. But Scotty Scheffler is going to look back with certain regrets because there were a couple of terrible shots that he took. And just had one of them not been so off, like hitting it into the woods the way he did, there were a couple of dreadful shots that he'd give anything to, have back.
He found a way to make no bogeys yesterday, though, and played. His scores were really good Saturday and Sunday. He really took himself out early in this tournament as well because he didn't play well on Friday. He
was way down. I'm surprised he worked his way into second place. I mean, that normally would be a story in itself. Had he won it, it would have been, I believe, the greatest comeback in Masters history, considering how far he was down. Scotty Scheffler.
It may have been, but nothing's going to top Nicklaus in '86 on Sunday, coming back 4 shots
Well,
down.
you mentioned Nicklaus in '86 and comparing him to McIlroy. The final shot was right there, near the hole. And Nicklaus's son who was his caddy, was trying to give him advice. And Nicklaus says, no, I got this. I can handle this little stinky, shot to go in. And you wonder with McIlroy, I mean, I compared that last shot to a basketball player standing all alone by the hoop, a tall guy, and telling him to dunk the ball unguarded. You just have to dunk it and it's all over. And somehow there's always that little element of the doubt that he's going to hit the rim and the ball is going to bounce out. So till the very end, there's this tiny element of doubt. Don't mess this up. It's so ridiculously easy. But McIlroy knew before the last, shot, it was all over. You could tell his expression, his attitude. He just wanted to get it over with.
It makes a big difference going into 18 with 2-stroke lead instead of 1, because he made it interesting on 18. He hit the ball so far right, but he hit it so far right, he had a little bit of a shot. That bunker shot was a little challenging. In fact, from that very spot, Bryson DeChambeau missed a cut Friday because he took 3 shots to get out of that bunker on Friday. So it wasn't a given until he made that bunker shot.
Well, his next to last shot, McIlroy made a really nice shot to get the ball right at the hole.
That
was the key thing. Had he made a bad shot and had been, a bit further out on the last shot, it would have been super interesting.
Once he got out of that bunker, he was not going to 3-putt that green. So I think, because he had a shot in hand, right? He could have missed that putt and still won the tournament because he had a 2-stroke.
Justin Rose at one point, you're right, was rolling. He was really rolling.
A 2-stroke lead.
As Danny Fuller would like to say, he had the momentum.
He did have momentum.
Justin Rose seemed to be on a roll.
The thing about golf, and especially golf at Augusta National, momentum can evaporate just like that. And Justin Rose had it. He took a 2-stroke lead at one point. I believe he was 12 under, and Young and Rory were 10 under. And about 30 minutes later, it was a 4-shot swing. Rory was 2 strokes ahead. So that's how fast things can change. And they changed all day yesterday. About 4 o'clock, there was still 7 guys who could have won that golf tournament yesterday.
The Masters is very direct. It's truly a win-it-all tournament. There are no consolation prizes like in the Olympics, 1 gold, silver, bronze, where you'll have 3 people over there, by the podiums, or the NCAA tournament Final 4, or the Super Bowl. Well, there's a runner-up. No one really cares about the run-up. I mean, we talk about what happened in the game, but you look back at someone's credentials, there's no such thing as a finalist in the Masters tournament. You either win it or you go home bitterly disappointed if you come up just a little short.
It's a great point because Justin Rose played great golf all weekend. I tend to root for the older guys, right? He's 45 years old. He would have been the second oldest to Jack to win the Masters. Yeah. And I had totally forgotten he lost last year in a playoff to Rory. My wife reminded me, of all people, who doesn't watch any golf unless I have it on. And she reminded me. I don't force her to watch golf unless it's a major. And she actually enjoyed it herself yesterday. So she's barely even a casual fan. So she really enjoyed this yesterday. And I don't think you need to be a golf fan to enjoy that type of drama that you saw yesterday.
Well, I'm going to tell you, for next year's Masters, McIlroy will have a chance to make history. The first man to ever win it 3 times in a row. And that's going to be the big story of the event next year.
100%. I got to tell you, though, this happened. They did this, actually. They Tiger-proofed that course when Tiger was playing because Tiger was just destroying the course. These guys are eating it up alive. We didn't used to see guys shoot 13, 14 under par at the Masters. You'd win at 4 or 5 under. But these guys are so long. The equipment and also the training is so good today that, I mean, I feel like, and some of the guys have talked about it. Tom Watson talked about it on Thursday, that he felt they needed to do something with the golf balls or the equipment to shorten these guys, because these guys are hitting. Rory is hitting 6 irons, 230 yards yesterday. That was all of a 3-wood and a driver for some guys back in the day. So,
and I love CBS, their technology. They show the ball in the air eloquently, like an arrow, going high up, going down, and you look and you're watching the crowd, like looking to see where the ball's going. How can you see where it's going? It's so darn far.
Yeah, well, Rick's right. They do get one. Everybody who finished above 4th place gets at least $1 million yesterday. So they didn't do badly. But to Jack's point, and I don't think you're not saying this, Rick. To Jack's point, in history, he's not going to remember you for finishing second.
Exactly. I mean, when you look back historically, look at the past winners. No one knows who the run-up is unless it's, basically a tiebreaker situation.
And
look, in the greatest example, your wife had to remind you of what happened last year.
I just remember
you basically just remember it. You just remember the winners. I wonder what the ratings want, CBS, and I wonder whether or not Tiger Woods still has an effect. Now, obviously, CBS would want him to play because he certainly doesn't hurt the ratings had he played, even though he'd have absolutely no chance, winning. I mean, Tiger Woods wouldn't break into the top 10 or top 20. But,
I think at this point, television in general, CBS specifically, because there are other networks that cover the early rounds of this. And I want to touch on that real quick before we stop talking golf. I think CBS now is better for Tiger not playing because they focus too much on a guy who's not going to win the tournament.
Yeah, but you never know the mentality. Years ago, when Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer were far past their prime, they won the Masters. One was in 22nd place, the other was in 24th place, but the cameras focused on the two of them going at it. That was the big thing. Nicklaus versus Palmer, it's a take back to the glory days. And they were following it, and Palmer happened to beat Nicklaus that day. Nicklaus is a far superior golfer to Palmer. You could call it a rivalry, but it was a one-sided rivalry in reality. But Palmer got the better Nicklaus that day, and Nicklaus said later it didn't mean much to him. He liked Arnold personally, but to Arnold it meant everything to beat Jack Nicklaus. So even though Arnold finished just a little over, I forgot what place, maybe 21st when all was said and done or whatever, to Arnold, just the idea he beat out Nicklaus was nearly the same as if he won the Masters that day. But Tiger I don't think Tiger has a foil to go against that way. But you kind of wonder if Tiger could have played and gotten in the top 20, would it have given him a lot of satisfaction? Would we have been focusing on him? We're talking about Tiger now, just the idea. He still means ratings as despicable an individual as he could be at times.
Tiger did have a foil. That was Phil Mickelson. That was not to the same level. It didn't reach Palmer and Nicklaus. The thing about Palmer was already reaching past his prime by the time Nicklaus was really starting to roll. So their rivalry wasn't as much a rivalry because Arnie had already started on the backside of his career, unfortunately.
And Justin Rose is 45 years old.
45.
The problem is you don't get better. No, no pun intended with tennis. You don't hold serve at that age. It's very hard to hold serve. If Justin Rose could come back and be the same player he's been the last couple of years, play the same exact way, chances are the rest of the pack might fall just a tiny bit and he could cash in and be a Masters champion. But at some point he's going to decline. And it usually it would have happened by now under most circumstances in the mid 40s. even golf, which some people like Mac didn't consider sport, there is the athleticism. You maybe get old a few years later than other sports, but inevitably it hits when a man's like about 50 already. You're not likely, to win tournaments like this or come close.
You're not, and he's an easy guy to root for. In fact, one of the great things about this tournament yesterday is everybody on leaderboard was very easy to root for. There was nobody that you didn't like. There was no Brooks.
Scheffler.
Scheffler's an easy guy to root for. I love Scheffler.
Easy guy.
Easy, I think.
Didn't he have some controversy hanging around him a while ago?
Well, he, in fact, it might have been last year's Masters. Maybe it was 2 years ago. He got stopped by the cops coming to the course to tee off, and they took him to jail for whatever reason. But he didn't really
Those are the type of guys you root for, him and Tyreek Hill. But Scotty Scheffler might be a great guy. I'm only joking. He might be a super wonderful guy. I'm joking.
Compare Scotty to Tyreek Hill.
They were both stopped. I mean,
it was a big misunderstanding is what happened.
No, Scotty Scheffler might be a wonderful, wonderful guy.
He can be a little short. He can be a little short with people. In fact, after round three,
a little more's coming out. The more we talk,
but he's not hard to root for in my mind. And again, maybe people don't like him. I don't know. I do. He was short with an answer on Saturday because a guy led off with the stupidest question he could ask. He shot 65 on Saturday, which was the best round anybody shot. I think Cam Young shot the same thing on Saturday.
I don't mind.
But they asked him, Jack, what could you have done to play better? He goes, dude, I just shot 65. That's the stupidest question I ever heard.
Yeah.
Come on. If he shot 72, then you ask him. But
I don't think it's the dumbest question. As good as you, I get it. The guy pitches a 2-hitter in baseball. What could you have done to pitch better?
Yes, he missed shots.
I understand him being a little annoyed. Yeah.
Differently is what, and he didn't do it nastily, right? He kind of laughed afterwards. He's like, dude, really? That's your question?
Yeah, no, he's correct. Scotty Scheffler is correct.
So,
and he was interviewed afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you saw it, and he was disappointed. You could tell. He tried to put on a happy face, but he couldn't quite do it, because he knows there were missed opportunities. There were several shots he would love to have taken back. It hurt because when all was said and done, he's probably thinking, I actually could have won this thing.
Listen, Rick, yes, he went around a blower block and ignored.
There you go, Rick. Thanks, Rick. I thought there was something with Scotty.
He got taken to jail. He got taken to jail, put in a jumpsuit, and they took a freaking mugshot of him like 3 hours before he's supposed to tee off. That was bull crap, and it's always going to be bull crap. I'm not saying he shouldn't have done what he did. I never said.
Listen, you can't have it both ways. Then you got to exonerate Tyreek Hill.
You don't take people to jail for going around a roadblock.
Well, no. He may have given him a hard time.
He had a couple of words with the officer, and
okay, a few words for the officers. I get
it. We have players. We have people in sports that kill people and beat up women, carry guns everywhere they go, and they're let to go do about their life. Scotty Scheffler goes around a roadblock and we take him to jail. I mean, come on, stop, just stop. We got to stop. Anyway, the good thing about you mentioned something earlier before we get off the Masters. I wanted to mention two things. Prime Video, Amazon Prime had a lot of the coverage of the first two rounds. They did an exceptional job. I was mortified that this was going to be awful. They did a really good job, and I want to give them some kudos. And also, you talked about the old timers playing. The great thing about the Masters is once you win, you're entitled to play. Yes, entitled to play as long as you want. Like Freddie Couples is still playing and normally plays pretty well. He didn't make the cut this year because he blew up at the end of round one. He was 3 under and just shot a quadruple bogey. But I'd like
entitled to play and go there and catch the excitement. But does anyone outside of you is aware that Freddie Couples was playing?
Absolutely. Anybody my age was watching and rooting for Freddie. We root for the old guys. Jose Maria.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I understand. You just don't want them to embarrass themselves at a certain point.
Most of them know when it's time to step away. Arnie knew when it was time to step away. You know, when he I think his last Masters round was like 84 or something, and he said, "I'm not doing this ever again." You know, so
yeah. And the funny thing about it, that would be a respectable score for the average guy going out to play golf, but not if he has a Masters tournament.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, great round, and good congratulations to Rory on a tremendous victory. Only the fourth guy to repeat. Jack.
And you're right about one thing, Keith, that about CBS. Rory McIlroy had an overwhelming lead going into the last day. Chances are people like myself wouldn't have been watching, the whole time the way I did. But with the tension mounting and it being up for grabs like that, it made all the difference.
That's a winner for CBS for sure. Let's pivot to the NBA. Last day of the season yesterday. And yesterday we were calling it Seeding Sunday, and it was an interesting turnout. The Knicks, who looked like they were going to get the Raptors, because I thought the Hawks would win and the Raptors would win. The Hawks lose yesterday, and they get the Knicks in the first round instead of the Raptors. They were 2-1 against the Hawks. They just beat them here. I don't know, a week ago, maybe a little longer than a week ago.
They did. When the Hawks missed a shot that was a fraction of a second after the final buzzer, they threw up a heave past midcourt that hit the backboard and went in.
Yeah,
and it would have sent the game into overtime. The Hawk-Knick game. The Knicks survived that.
This is definitely a tougher matchup for the Knicks than the Raptors, who they were 5-0 against during the regular season. The Hawks are 20-6, I think, since the All-Star break. Been playing great basketball. I think they win this series, but it does set up the possibility of a first-round exit for the Knicks, I think.
No, the Knicks are more likely than not going to beat the Hawks, but they're going to have to bring their A game. That's what the problem is. If they played the Raptors, they could have beaten them with their B game. But it's going to be a tough series against the Hawks. The Knicks should prevail. The problem is now you're going against the other big three who you have to survive against. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Knicks would be matched with the Celtics in all probability.
I'm
not sure, because Cleveland won yesterday. The report was they were looking to tank so they could play the Pistons instead of the Celtics.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused here, but regardless.
The way I see it, they would get the Celtics in the second round. Yes.
But regardless, the Knicks, they'll have a tough series with the Hawks. I think they'll win. Then it's a 50-50 series against the Celtics. And then they'd have to play the Cavalier Piston winner. They're going to have to beat three. And I'm going to call the Hawks an elite team for the playoffs, at least. Okay?
That's
the way
fair.
They're playing.
That's fair.
So they're going to have to beat three elite teams, 3 series in a row to get to the finals. And that's a tough road. Before it was just 2.
Yeah.
They were going to take the Raptors as a tune-up, more or less. They would have been forced to play the Raptors, but the Raptors would have been a warm-up, basically. Raptors would not have represented a serious threat. Their best player being Scotty Barnes, who I like a heck of a lot. But they weren't going to lose to their old guys like Barrett and Quickly. But that's not happening now. They're playing an Atlanta Hawk team that's playing just about as good as anyone in basketball, the last 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, just to echo that, I mean, they have, I would say, the toughest path out of this East of any of these teams. So, right? So, because
the way it works.
Yeah, the other 3 teams should have easy pass out of here. What about the layoff? I mean, again, in basketball, we're only playing a couple times a week. We're not playing every day like baseball. By the time the play-in tournament gets finished up on Friday, these teams will have been off from Sunday till Saturday. I think the actual first round of these playoffs kick off. You see, obviously it could be one of 2 things. It's good. You get some rest. Guys get healthy. but you also could lose a little. Some teams could lose a little momentum. The Nuggets, for instance.
I think you're better off with the rest in basketball, without a doubt. It's not like baseball. I can understand you're not playing for a week in baseball. You maybe lose a little in timing. Basketball is less about timing than other sports. I understand you could say, well, there's timing on the shot and this and that, but they're practicing all along. And these guys have played with one another all season. So they'll be ready. You're much better off getting the bye. And the Knicks didn't earn it. They didn't earn it by winding up being the third seed. I mean, the Knicks are now forced to play the Atlanta Hawks, and they can't complain. They should have played better, gotten into at least the second position behind the Pistons, and they wouldn't have had to do this.
Now, in fairness, and Rick pointed this out yesterday on one of the shows. I don't know if it was our roundtable show or my show, but the Knicks, for all our complaining about, the Knicks, they have a better record than they had last year in the regular season. And to your point there, Rick, I don't fear the Celtics, and I don't think the Knicks do either. It's the Pistons. No. The Pistons, to me, are the real stumbling block.
Listen, the Celtics and the Knicks are 50-50 series. Let's be honest about it. My point is this. If the Knicks beat the Hawks, it's going to be a tough series. It's going to be a tough series regardless of the Knicks could, even if the Knicks swept them hypothetically, which I doubt that would happen. All the games are going to be tough. It's going to be an emotional series. Yeah. Then you have a super emotional series against the Celtics. And if the Knicks beat the Celtics, I could easily see it being a 7-game series going down to the wire. How much do you have left for the next series? You got to gear it up against the Piston team or a Cavalier team, a much improved Cavalier team with James Harden, who I think James Harden is, despite his dismal playoff history, I feel is finally ready to break through. The law of averages are with James Harden finally to break through. And I can see this Cavalier team perhaps beating the Knicks team. I know the Knicks have kind of owned them a bit in the past, but I could see the Cavaliers beating the Knicks. And certainly the Pistons, if they're healthy, if Kate Cunningham's 100%, they're favorites over the Knicks.
I can see who are the where's my I had the playoff brackets up. No, I lost them. They're here. So the Cavs get the Raptors, they'll beat them, right? I don't see them getting past the Pistons. I really don't. I don't. You like the law of averages, but James Harden's also getting older. And the rest of this Cavs team has not had a history. And I know it's not the same team year to year, obviously, anymore. But they've got a history of coming up small in the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell does not have a great playoff history.
But he's a great player.
He's a great player.
Between him and James Harden, one of them has to play like a superstar, one of the two, and then the other guy has to complement the other one. Chances are it's Donovan Mitchell. James Harden can be outstanding playing the point, and he has. He has a ton of assists over the years. And James Harden could score, can, run the offense, and Donovan Mitchell could do his thing. And they got the rebounding there. I mean, come on. Well, if Jared Allen's been hurt, that's a concern of mine. He's been hurt. If Jared Allen is compromised, that'll affect the Cavs. But one step at a time for the Knicks. They've got to take care of this Atlanta team. And since Atlanta made that deal with Washington where they traded away, Trae Young, the chemistry's been so much better. And this isn't a knock on Trae Young. I'm not saying he was selfish or whatever. But sometimes things just work out that way. You have better chemistry when you move on from, a star so-called impact player.
Addition by subtraction is sometimes a good thing, right? And that worked out for them.
Yeah.
Out west, there's actually 2 really good series in the first round because the Lakers are going to get the Rockets. The Lakers, their health is what's going to decide this early series. And the Nuggets are going to get the team that you like so much out west, the Timberwolves. I think that might be the best first-round series of all of them is the Nuggets and Timberwolves. Nuggets 12 in a row to finish the regular season.
Yeah, I'm looking at Jokic. It seems like he's getting every last ounce out of his body.
He could
I
probably use a
mean,
timeout.
he's being pushed to the limits. I mean, I'm going to like the Timberwolves in that series when they play Denver.
You like them, huh?
Yeah.
Let's do a little exercise with the play-in round. So it gets kind of convoluted because 7 and 8 plays, and the team that wins is automatically in. 9 and 10 play, and then they got to play the team that lost the 7 and 8 game. So I'm going to give you the matchups, and we're going to pick the 2 teams that are going to move on. In the East, Orlando in the 7-8 game, Orlando plays Philadelphia. I'm thinking Embiid's not playing, and I think Orlando wins this game.
And Embiid definitely not playing.
It's up in the air. He says there's a chance, but how much?
I'm gonna tell you, yesterday was a big game for Orlando. At least something seemed to be at stake. You know, be it home court or whatever. And they couldn't beat the Celtic backups. The Celtic backups beat them. The Celtics B team beat them.
Yeah.
The Celtics B team beat the Orlando Magic A team. Think of that, right?
Yeah. Well,
with that said,
the
Sixers are dysfunctional. They're just dysfunctional. They've won 45 games this year. I'm surprised they even did that. I'm going to go with Orlando, despite Orlando being one of the big disappointments in the NBA this year. Even though they made the play-in, they had a winning record. They were disappointing. The Magic was supposed to be a team of the future. They were supposed to possibly be in the mix to come out of the East. Possibly.
Yep.
Now they're the long shots to come out of the East. But I think they have the youthful energy there. I think they're going to, I don't know if the word upset, but beat the 76ers in this series.
I wouldn't call it an upset necessarily, but in fact, what's the line in that game? Actually, Philadelphia is a 1.5 favorite. So, anyway, that game's Wednesday.
Yeah.
In the other game in the East, the 9-10 game, so whoever wins this would have to win 2 games. Miami will play against Charlotte. I like Miami in this game to move on and play Philadelphia for the right to get that 8th seed. What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking before, but Charlotte seems to have a little more upside than Miami. Miami's Miami. Pat Riley's been trying to get that one missing piece. It seems since LeBron moved on, and they haven't been able to quite do it. You always hear the Heat being in the mix for a big-name player like a Giannis. They try to offer a package. They don't just quite have enough to offer. And if I'm going to pick Miami, it's going to have to be because I have this great faith in Eric Spoelstra.
I think Spoelstra is the most underrated coach in professional basketball. That's why I'm taking Miami.
That's fair, but originally I thought Miami, but now talking to you, I'm tempted to take Charlotte. But you want to know something? I'm going to keep the faith with Spoelstra, and I'm going to feel Miami will have a way to get it done. But Miami, if they do survive this round with Charlotte, they're not surviving the next one, I don't think.
Well, they're going to play if this
Orlando, Philadelphia winner.
They would play. No, they play the loser of Orlando, Philadelphia.
The loser, yeah.
So let's just say Miami, Philadelphia. We'll call it.
Yeah, I
pick those games. Those games are on Friday, so we could wait to make that prediction and see who's playing on Friday. So we'll just predict the first.
Yeah, exactly. Let me hold off on that. Prediction. I'm very hesitatingly going to pick Miami to beat Charlotte in the series, but it could go either way.
Well, Friday we'll have to pick all the series, including these 2 games. So out west in the 7-8 game, it'll be Portland playing Phoenix. I think Phoenix is the best team that didn't make the original seedings, if you will. And I think Phoenix takes care of Portland, maybe not easily, but they take care of them in pretty good fashion on Wednesday.
Wait. Not easily, but in good fashion. Okay, yeah. I'll say he's Phoenix easily.
Okay, that's fair. We're both on the same page, I think. And then Golden State, who finished 10th, gets the Clippers. This game is maybe this is not a good game.
No, this is the ugliest game you could have.
I'm just gonna flip a coin, and I say the Clippers. I think the Golden State is just too beat up, and I don't think Steph's going to carry them to any wins. I think the Clippers win this game.
No, when James Butler went down with the season-ending injury, it really ended the season for Golden State. I mean, Golden State, they're just past their peak. I mean, even you wonder about Steph. I know he's been hurt, whether Steph is declining. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. I'm not certain. Draymond Green has lost his edge. You know, you just look at the whole team there. You know, Porzingis, is he healthy or what?
So I like you like the Clippers.
I like the Clippers, but I think very little of the Clippers.
So we'll have the Clippers and Phoenix in the final, which we'll predict on Friday. And just to touch on Golden State, I mean, to me, it looks like it's time. I don't know what you do. You don't move on from Steph Curry, obviously. But they need to do something here because they can't just keep running this back now year after year. As you said, these guys are getting older. Steph's going to be 35, I think, next year.
Well, it's a new era. It happens all the time. It's happening in football the same way with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Now, I know we're not talking football. I don't consider the Chiefs Super Bowl contenders anymore. I think there's a great chance, excellent chance they don't make the playoffs again next year. So what do? I mean, you have certain legacy players. But at a certain point, you got to move on from them. Steph Curry will be a warrior his whole career.
Agreed.
Unless Steph Curry wants to go elsewhere. He's the one guy, they're not going to mess with it, try to trade him elsewhere.
No, but I can see them moving on from Draymond Green and certainly moving on from Jimmy Butler. I think they're what they've done is they've tried to retool rather than rebuild, is bring in older guys like Butler, Durant. Well, he wasn't that old, I guess, when he brought him in that time. But I think that's been their plan, right? Is to kind of bring older guys in to mesh with Steph and Draymond to a certain.
It doesn't work. I mean,
younger. They got to get younger. Is my point, right?
Kevin Garnett was in the news. He visited, Minnesota. They gave him a great ovation. Yeah. But I remember when Kevin Garnett, after going to the Celtics, when he went to the Nets with Paul Pierce, they were still good players. But they want the same players, and it resulted. They made the Nets a very competitive team. They gave them a puncher's chance against anyone. But we see the Nets in the playoffs. They play LeBron James, Dwayne Wade's Miami Heat, and they lose the series 4-1. But if Garnett and Pierce were in their prime, a series like that would have been a nail-biter.
Right. And Carlos, this is what we're talking about. They do move players, but they bring in older guys trying to, recreate something that
Porzingis was a good move. Porzingis, not that Porzingis is that old.
4 games.
No. I'll tell you why it's a good move. Sometimes you are able to get a guy without giving up much, and you could catch lightning in a bottle because if he stays healthy and puts it all together, it's a major, major difference. I mean, we've seen that happen historically. Look, when the Celtics got Bill Walton, people would have scoffed at the idea he's healthy, he's broken down. He made a contribution. That's why I talk that way about Zion Williamson. You get right, but it meant a championship. You get Zion Williamson, a team gets him. If he happens to be healthy a couple of years and he goes to a contender, he could make a major difference. And the Warriors tried that with Porzingis, who can still play really well if healthy. It just didn't work out.
Are we putting Porzingis and Zion Williamson in the same sentence as Bill Walton? Come on. Those guys aren't even close to playing.
Walton was more physically compromised than those guys.
Yes, but he was a much better player than either one of those guys.
Well, no, Walton was a, great player, Hall of Famer, but
he was a freak. He was great. Porzingis isn't going to get healthy. He's never been healthy. How's he going to start now? You know, you don't get healthier.
He's been healthy at times. There's an injury history, but sometimes you hope a guy stays healthy. Look, I've heard this nonsense even in baseball when I do the show with Mac and Paul Semendinger. Well, Aaron Judge is injury prone. I wouldn't give him the money he's asking for. I'd trade him away. You know, we heard that. Yeah, how would that have worked out?
I would never have agreed with that, right?
And he wasn't injury prone. You get hit in the hand by a pitch.
Right.
That's not being injury prone, and that puts you out. And then you run into a fence in Los Angeles where Judge should have sued the organization by setting up an unsafe condition. That doesn't make you injury prone.
No.
John Carlos Stanton, he's injury prone.
100%.
A guy like that. Yeah.
We know how I feel about him, so we won't get into that.
Well, Yankee fans love him, so.
So I know. Well, they love him when he's doing well and he's playing well. He's about to go into about a 4-week snooze, so get ready for it because it's coming. What other news we have in the NBA? Doc Rivers lasts about 5 minutes after the Buck season ended yesterday and got fired. No surprise there.
Can I say something? I like to use the term gold card.
Never before.
I like to use the term gold card, meaning when a coach wins a championship, it could always point back to it. I'm a good coach. I'm an NBA champion. I led my team to an NBA title. So Doc Rivers had a gold card. He has employment. All the gold card says you're not a terrible coach. With that said, he's a bad coach. How about that?
Is he a bad coach?
I'll upgrade him from terrible to bad. He's not a good coach. Look at his history. He had an outstanding team with the LA Clippers who couldn't, advance in the playoffs ever. He won a title with the Celtics, went to a finals the other year. Kudos to him. But you want to know something? And you got to give him credit for that. But look at his stops in Philadelphia. Major disappointment. Milwaukee, a disaster.
So Doc Rivers, who just made the Naismith Hall of Fame 2 weeks ago, by the way, right? You know that?
Well, he was a player. If you look at his body of work, I don't object to that.
Yeah, he did not make the Hall of Fame as a player, by the way. He made the Hall of Fame as a coach because his playing career was okay.
Whoa. Wait.
His playing career.
He made it as a coach?
Yeah, he didn't have a Hall of Fame career as a player. He was a good player, not a Hall of Fame.
He had a better career as a player than he had as a coach.
He's won 2,000 games in the NBA. He took the Clippers to the Western Conference Finals when nobody was doing that in LA.
But the Clippers had the talent to at least go to the finals.
Well, you think they should have won championships? So listen.
They should have gone to the finals. They disappointed. You can't have it both ways. I don't want to hear this nonsense. Chris Paul is one of the greatest point guards in NBA history. If Chris Paul and the crew that supported him were that good, why didn't they go further? Where does the blame go?
Why do you make the argument against me with Aaron Boone all the time when I say similar things? But Doc Rivers is a bad coach and Aaron Boone is not a bad manager.
Because the sports are different. Baseball, I hate to say it, is more of a crapshoot of advancing in the playoffs. You get your team to the playoffs and take it from there. A manager could do only so much. Keith, I'm going to tell you something honestly, and I hate to say this. Okay,
you're always honest with me.
If I coached the Yankees, let's say I had to manage them, I would the first thing I would do is get my pitching coach to sit next to me and help me out with the bullpen, who I should put in, who I shouldn't put in. I could write out a lineup. I could do certain situational things. I'm going to win nearly as many games as Aaron Boone.
You might win more.
No. Aaron Boone is a good manager. He goes on the analytics in large part.
Why he's a bad manager.
And you play. I mean, Kevin Cash over the weekend. The Yankees in a bad spot now. What if they lost 5 in a row?
Great
the Rays Kevin Cash did a phenomenal job managing the Rays yesterday. He was a difference maker as a manager yesterday, Kevin Cash.
In the whole
He had them
series.
playing the ultimate small ball, bunting effectively. Small ball is great if you can execute it. If you can execute it, executing it is the hardest part. Not calling the game. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. You actually have to bunt and have excellent placement on the bunts. And the Rays were able to do that over the weekend against the Yankees.
I 100% agree. And you're kind of making my argument for me a little bit because Kevin Cash outmanaged Aaron Boone this weekend. Kevin Cash
He did.
He outmanaged Aaron Boone a few years ago in a playoff series. And Aaron Boone has cost the Yankees and not cost because we don't know if he made different moves. He made serious blunders 3 times in the last week when he left Escara up there 2 times last week in the 9th inning with a tying run on base and didn't pinch hit. A left-hander with Goldschmidt sitting on the bench twice last week. And yesterday he leaves Grichuk in, who's 0 for 9 with a chance to tie the game in the 9th inning.
Well, Grichuk had come in as a pinch runner before that.
But they still had Goldschmidt on the bench. I would have hit Goldschmidt.
I agree. I'd rather have Goldschmidt up than Grichuk. I agree with you on that. But Goldschmidt is a little long. He's a little long in the tooth. And Goldschmidt is there in large part for 2 reasons. One, when they spell Austin Wells and he doesn't play, Ben Rice might be catching that instead. And then you play Goldschmidt at first base. Or he could be a late inning defensive replacement for Ben Rice.
I agree. Goldschmidt still eats left-handers. It wasn't a left-hander yesterday, to be fair. But he eats left-handers up still. Even last year, he just killed left-handers. So let me see what Carlos had to say here. We're missing the big picture. NBA and NFL and few baseball teams have rosters determined by contracts more than playing availability.
Carlos, I know that. Carlos, come on. Get out of here. I'm aware of that. Contracts decide who's on what team or whatever.
It does. Yeah. Yes, well, it doesn't always decide playing time because there's a lot of guys making a lot of money not playing, by the way. So.
It could. No. The point is, it does. If you're paying a guy more money, you're feeling he's better, you're going to play him. But it does. A guy with a big contract is going to hang around longer. A perfect case in point, we were talking about John Carlos Stanton.
Yes.
If Stanton didn't have that big contract, as effective as he is at times as a DH, Yankees would have moved on from him.
About 3 years ago.
Or they would have about 3 years ago. You're right. Or at the very least, giving him something like $3 million a year to come off the bench as a pinch hitter, whatever. Very low contract. It's like because he could go on a roll, Stanton, but the Yankees absolutely are playing him in large part because of what he's getting paid money-wise.
I don't that part I won't disagree with. There are certain instances where it happens, but if there was somebody that much better than Stanton, he very well may not be playing as much. But he gets hot. Good thing he's been hot early to start the season because the rest of the Yankee lineup's been pretty cold, so they've needed Stan here on the early going. So hopefully that continues. So anyway, I guess we moved on to baseball, by the way. So we talked about the Yankees 5 losses in a row now to the A's and the Rays. Another team, the A's are playing really good baseball. They swept the Mets too. So 5 in a row in New York.
Jeff McNeil returning to New York and hitting nearly 500 in the series. There was an interesting interaction early in the series. Jeff McNeil was on second base, and Lindor kind of crossed paths with him on the field. And Lindor said something, maybe joking around to be friendly, and McNeil didn't really answer him. Just reportedly there was tension between the two that was going on in the clubhouse. And I'm not saying that contributed to McNeil getting traded. Chances are it did not. It did not, because McNeil was getting paid something like $12,750,000 a year, $12,750,000 And I'm sure the Mets picked up part of that salary to give to the A's for him to go there. But McNeil is off to a good start, very good start, and he may possibly recapture what he had when he won a batting title.
And the A's are tied for first place in the West.
Yeah, a good pickup. I mean, you wonder what's gone through McNeil's mind, because there's a difference between playing in New York City field and playing in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a great town, but, there's a difference in baseball-wise.
Well, they still got about 3 or 4 years before they're going to get to Vegas. So,
yeah, they're playing where? Sacramento.
Sacramento in a minor league ballpark, and
yeah, you're right. I shouldn't associate, even though they're going to be Vegas bound. I shouldn't associate it with being Vegas.
JB from the Back Up Binge podcast is with us. Good morning, JB. Big Orioles fan. The Orioles have been bad with a soft schedule. I agree. I like the Orioles a lot. Have not played well.
Yeah, but JB, look at virtually every team, with the exception of a couple of them. All of them are close. All of them just need one good week to get into first place. Things bounce their way. We were hearing, the Red Sox in such trouble. They're only a couple of games out now. What trouble? No one's really in trouble right now. If you're in the Dodgers division, you might be in trouble as far as winning that division, because the Dodgers, of course, are stacked. And even though the Dodgers are bound to hit a slump at some point, when all is said and done, you're looking at a team that's going to be up there around 100 wins in that vicinity. Maybe a little over, maybe a teeny bit under. In any event, the Dodgers won't get caught by the Padres, but the Padres could get in as a wild card.
And the AC,
all of a sudden,
really keeping up. The teams are losing.
All the teams, everyone is sneaking up on one another, and everyone is falling back to one another. Everyone is bunched close together at this point. You can't take the standings too seriously right now.
Yes, in fairness, I mean, if the Sox were in danger, they were 5 games out at one point, and they were in danger of. You don't want to fall too far behind, even if you got a good team. You don't want to fall 10 games behind before you get to Memorial Day.
No. That's alarming. But I'm saying you're 4 or 5 games behind. Don't panic at this point.
McNeil has no pressure with the A's, Carlos.
Wait, he won a batting title with the Mets. Did he have pressure there?
Yeah.
Pressure's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that, any player who doesn't feel pressure is not going to succeed.
That's a great point. But McNeil's not one of these guys. I know you don't agree with necessarily. New York is a different place. Philadelphia is a different place. Certain places are harder to play than others. New York is not for everybody, but McNeil played very well.
8 years. He was here 8 years. The fans liked him. It didn't hurt him.
I'm not saying McNeil falls into that category. I'm saying he does not fall into that category. But some guys.
It could. Well, you have bigger crowds here, it seems, and maybe a little bit louder. Look, Bo Bichette, the first weekend of the season, first 3 games, he's getting booed. And you have to be able to handle it. And Bo Bichette laughed it off. He says, hey, I'm surprised they didn't boo me earlier. They should boo me the way I'm doing. And that kind of gets the fans off you. You know how you shut the fans up. Just get a couple of hits and just perform. And if you're going to start really letting it get to you, I don't think it depends on everyone's personality. Someone like A-Rod, he was booed a lot, but the fans. I went to a game. This is how old I am. You're going to like this story, Keith. This is a true story. As a kid, I went to a Yankee game. Roger Maris is up. They were giving him an awesome booing his last year with the Yankees. An awesome booing him something bad. He hits a home run. They're all cheering. But the case I'm trying to make, do something well. You quiet people down. Just perform.
I think, I agree with you 100%. 100%. I think we may leave this for another day because this would take a little time, but we'll definitely do this topic and get into what Jack thinks about the boxers, all-time boxers. Just with 5 minutes left, I don't want to dive into that, but it's definitely a topic worth getting into with Jack.
We got a show tonight tuned for the last message that just came in called Glove Fist. The Backup Bing podcast, right? With myself and my co-host Frank Laterzo, 7 p.m. Eastern time, where we talk boxing and we debate and talk topics like that.
Yep.
7 p.m. Eastern time tonight, boxing for full hour. Unless Frank tries to talk about football in the beginning of the show.
and I guess as far as this show goes, JB, I think for one of the shows when we have to pre-record a show, for when we have to pre-record a show, we can probably do this topic for one of those shows.
And Keith, am I wrong when Frank wants to talk football at the start of a boxing show? And I feel this is a boxing show.
Listen, I know that Pags thinks he can take Frank. I'm not sure that I am, so I don't know if I want to get in the middle of your guys' little squabble here. So I'm not getting into fights with any ex-boxers, you or him included. So let's move on. We got to wrap it up. But before we do, I want to mention a couple guys that passed away over this past weekend and send our condolences to their family and friends. Phil Garner, a baseball lifer, a scrappy player, not a great player by any means, but he played on a lot of winning teams and a lot of good teams and managed for a long time, got the Astros to their first World Series. He passed away this last weekend, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends. Any thoughts on Phil? I loved watching Phil Garner play baseball. Scrap iron.
Two legacies as a player. I think he had 16-year career as a player.
Yeah.
And then as a manager, like you said, he got the Astros to their first World Series. He managed Clemens and Andy Pettit. They won the Astro team that year. I think his legacy is more so as a player.
I agree.
Me, at least.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. I guess his legacy more so would have been as a well-liked individual.
And another guy who passed away that probably slipped under a lot of people's radar, but I don't know about yours, Browning Nagel, only 57 years old.
Yeah, Browning Nagel.
At one point, you remember his debut game, it looked like the Jets finally found their quarterback. I think they got him in a second round, if I'm not mistaken, from Louisville. Had a great debut, but it went downhill from there pretty fast.
I never thought he was the Jet quarterback of the future. When Browning Nagel, when the Jets got him, they did a background check, and it showed he was a super good person, such a good person from the time he was a kid and he was on a newspaper route, to help out his family, just a good person, from Louisville. He was a Louisville Cardinal legend, there where he played. And one of the long-listed Jet quarterbacks, but the fans never got on him. They never looked at Brian Nagel as being a bust because there was hopes that he could be okay, but I don't think the Jet Nation was counting on it. They were hopeful. Hopeful is the best way of putting it, but no more than hopeful. There weren't higher expectations.
Am I misremembering that he went like one pick after Brett Favre in the draft? The Jets could have.
Yeah, he did. He did. And the Jets were ready to take Brett Favre.
Yeah.
But you never know. Brett Favre obviously would have been more successful, but who knows how Brett Favre would have turned out as a Jet. I mean, long term, would he have been their franchise quarterback all the years? Who knows?
Right. AC, you'll get more boxing. Check out Glove Fist.
Glove Fist, AC.
Sunday.
7 p.m. Eastern time tonight. Tune into this network. Frank Laterzo, myself, talk boxing a whole hour. Would love to hear from you then with any questions you have.
And we'll give you some boxing when there's a lot of news. And also, AC, make sure you go get Jack's book, Michael Jinx Spinks. Go to Amazon, get it today. You can read this book, and it's a great
Michael Jinx Spinks. I got I'm rocking the shirt.
You got the shirt. Yeah, you're rocking the shirt. Good job. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Great show today. Thanks for your input, guys. Jack, great job. And we will see you Friday morning and talk more NBA, more Major League Baseball, maybe some boxing. Who knows? We'll see what we talk about then. We'll see you Friday. Jack will see you tonight with Glove Fist, as he said, at 7 p.m. And I'll see you Wednesday with a College Sports Huddle. Have a great great Monday.